evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are listening. And thank you for taking the time to join us today on The Grind Path. And what is the grind path? The grind path is a space. Yeah, I like to call it a space. I don't call it a platform or anything or a forum. It is just a space to discuss. And what exactly do we discuss on The Grind Path? On The Grind Path, we discuss the grindings that everyone is into. Yeah, because most of the time, yeah, there are so many podcasts or spaces, but most of the conversations are often about the funny life of celebrities and people that have like I call it a very funny stories. But for the majority of us who are just ordinary people, it is just all a grind, and we are in the majority. Those of us who are not celebrities, who are not like in the limelight, we are in the majority, and we have a lot of stories that are more relatable to us and not like the story of the glam or the glamour of the lives of the celebrities. So mostly we'll be talking about societal issues, we'll be talking about career, we're talking about parenting, we're talking about relationships, we're talking about how people are grinding, because it's all a grind. It's never over, because whenever you grind to a point you think you've arrived, you realize that there's still so much to grind. So welcome, I'm your host. My name is Olabisi Akonde. And this is our first episode, so I'm very excited to have you join us on our first episode. So that is the introduction to the program. And the topic of today is, what is a first-class citizen? That is the topic of today. I'll make an introduction of the topic, then we introduce our guest. A first-class citizen. The reason why I'm actually starting with this topic is often because as Nigerians, or Nigerians in diaspora, as the case might be, when some of us were trying to like maybe leave the country, and I still often see such conversations on social media till today. When you say, oh, okay, I'm relocating to another country, you often hear, oh, you're leaving your motherland to go to a country where you are going to be a second-class citizen. And so our conversation today is it true? Do we really have, do you actually leave Nigeria to become a second-class citizen? Are you really a first-class citizen in Nigeria? What really makes you a first-class citizen? Does it really exist? And if it doesn't, is it a concept that we need? And if we need it, what can we do to really have a meaningful first-class citizen or a meaningful citizenship, as the case might be? So that is our topic for today. So I go to our guest. He's a doctor. He's a doctor. He'll give a better introduction of himself. His name is Ayodeji Taiwo, aka Ifatomi Soma. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you so much for the introduction, and I'm really happy that I'm your first guest. So
Thank you.
it's an honor to be the first guest. So just as a point of note, I doctorate is a PhD and not a medical doctor, because I often get this kind of thing where people are saying, okay, which hospital do you work at or something like that, and then I don't know how to start explaining. One guy was even praying for me one day that one day I'll become the Minister of Health in Germany, because he saw I was a doctor. So it's a PhD in geophysics. And yes, thank you for the introduction.
Okay. Yeah. So a PhD in geophysics. Okay. So thank you. And okay, aside from being a doctor, what do you do on a day-to-day?
Okay. So just briefly about myself, and how I relate to my life in Germany. I've been living here since 2015. So I came here that time to come and do my master's degree after finishing my NYSC and everything in Nigeria. So when I came at the time, most of us were coming here to come and study and work, hustle on the side. There was not really an influx of Nigerians or Africans who were coming here on work visa. Everybody.
Okay, that's interesting. Was that what you studied in Nigeria?
No, my bachelor's degree was in electrical engineering from University of Lagos. So after that, I went to JOS for my NYSC, then I came here. When I got here, I switched to geophysics because I wanted to do more of modeling and less of, connecting wire and all this kind of thing that we do in electrical engineering. So,
okay.
And then somehow I landed in finance. I think when you have the basic analytical skills, mathematics, you can do statistics, everything. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can work in finance, you can work anywhere. So I believe, in my opinion, one of the best courses you can actually study in the university, in my opinion, is mathematics or computer science, because they give you that broad background. If you want to become a biologist tomorrow, you can become a
Yeah.
biologist. If you want to become a neuroscientist, you can become, because all of these fields, they require data, and they're data driven, and many times even the equations you solve are similar, very similar, just for different parameters. So once you have those tools, programming tools, analytical tools, numerical methods, etc., you can thrive in many fields. So I would say so.
So it's really interesting that you really have a lot of grind story. Like you have been you have been grinding for a while.
Say so.
And I actually felt lucky when you said like, oh, like you have your background in mathematics, because that's what I had my background in. I had my
Interesting.
background in mathematics, taught maths for a while, and now I work in software engineering. But
I
it's
see.
also so it's all grinding. Yeah.
I think that the analytical approach you developed in the math study will definitely be applicable in your programming work today.
Yeah, honestly. So we get to the topic of today. Have you ever heard that statement before, said to you, or maybe you've heard it said to someone else? You are moving to another country to become a second-class citizen.
Yeah, to me, kind of indirectly, but to other people, yes, because my case is a bit different. I came here as a much younger person, and even though I had my first job in Nigeria, I was working with Procter and Gamble at the time. So I was recruited directly from Unilag, and so I was working there for a while. It was actually my first job, and I didn't have much experience. I had not yet gathered that kind of big money before. So it was difficult for anybody to say, okay, you are going to become a class citizen somewhere, as opposed to somebody maybe who was already working in the bank for many years and now wants to relocate. But I know that I did have a case where a family member who lives in the United States, he was really discouraging me from looking at Germany as a country, in the sense that he said, oh, there's nothing you want to do here. They don't speak English. They are all racists and they don't want you there. And if you come to America now to join me, within 6 months, you buy a house, you buy a car, all these kind of lofty stories. So, so directly it was not told to me. And, but to other people, of course, I've heard these kind of things that people tell them, no, don't come. You're going to become a second-class citizen. You're going to lose the quality of life you had home in Nigeria.
Interesting. Okay. Not so directly for you. I actually heard it directly. I heard it directly when I was trying to make a move. So in total, you spent about 9 years in Germany.
Yes, I spent exactly 9 years. So I came October 2015. So it's already 9 years and maybe 1 month.
Okay, right. So that means you are a very valid person to ask this question. Have you been a second-class citizen in Germany since you've been here?
Oh, okay. So maybe before I clarify on that question, maybe I can just throw it back to you quickly to clarify exactly what we mean, so we can be on the same. Because this is always what we do also with our clients too. We ask them, okay, when you say this, what exactly do you mean? So that we are answering the same question.
Yeah. Okay. I would say I mean, I might have my own definition of it, but basically, let me take it from when it was said to me before I left Nigeria. When it was said to me, and even the way I still see it on the internet, I believe this week I still saw someone write like, "Oh, yeah, just going to become a second-class citizen." And whenever I hear that, what it's often expected is you are going to a place where you don't have much rights. You have limited rights. It's pretty difficult for you to have big aspirations. Because probably maybe being a second-class citizen in another country means like there is a cap or there is a ceiling to your aspirations. That is, I think that basically you don't. But I think the first one is like you don't have rights. Like you don't have much rights. You could want to do something and someone will tell like, hey, you are not from here and you are not entitled to this or things like that.
Okay, yeah, okay. I think now it's good that you defined it, because this is also what I had in my mind as a definition. So I would say, to be honest, this has not been my experience in Germany. Of course, I believe that whenever you move as an African person to a Western society here, there's always a level of discrimination that follows it. I'm not an expert in the social sciences, so I cannot also confirm if this is just because you are coming from Africa, or if this is just how people behave when somebody who is different comes into their space. So it's one of those two things. It could be that maybe your skin color is what causes it. It could also just simply be that you are a different person, whether you are white or black, but you're just different and you come into a space and they just don't know how to go about dealing with you. But in terms of my rights being taken and everything, I would say the only times I experienced something negative in this regard, I felt like a second-class citizen, would have been my early days or years in Germany, because at the time I couldn't speak the language. I didn't have any idea of how the law operated, and I was just grateful to even be here. So people would notice this thing and they would try to, take advantage of me, so to say. So I remember there was the first apartment I ever got when I moved here. The first long-term apartment was at a place called Ebersberg, and in this place I was living with two other people in the keller of so the keller is like the underground, the basement of somebody's house. Basement. They were bad. It was really, really cramped, and when the lady wanted to it's only now that when I opened my file box, I saw the letter again. I was like, oh, why did I just keep up like that? I could have actually challenged this thing, and this woman could not do anything to me. But I didn't know anything at the time. So the people have treated me that way in the beginning. But what I observed also, and again, when you look at places like maybe the Ausländerbehörde, that is the foreigners office, and all these other places, I've had experiences whereby they try to push me around left and right to say, okay, we don't know who is in charge of this. We don't know how to do it. But in all of these cases, I've found that if you know what the law says, and you say, okay, this is the law and this paragraph says this, then you have no problem. I remember there was a landlord who made me sign a 2-year contract for a house, minimum 2 years. And then I wanted to move out already, and then they're like, okay, you cannot move, you've already signed, But because of my experience that I learned that, okay, I actually have some rights here. I went to meet a lawyer from the Mieterverein, the tenant agency. The lawyer was like, he's not really sure. But then I told him, you know what, don't worry. I have the paragraph in the law book here that says that if you're a student, you are not bound by very long-term contracts, because students require flexibility to move for internships and for whatever purposes. So the lawyer didn't even know this particular paragraph. So when I brought it out to him, he said, oh, good job. Thank you for finding it for me. And he drafted his own legal, whatever it is, and sent it to the person. And I was released. So in terms of rights being taken away, I believe that some people here take advantage of other people. But if they see that you know your right, I think that Germany, as far as Germany is concerned, is not that kind of state whereby people are being oppressed because of their skin color or because of where we come from and forced to become second-class citizens.
Okay. So mostly, like some of the things you mentioned, like people taking advantage of you because maybe you are not familiar with the environment, the social structure, your rights, basically. But the moment you have tools to your rights, so we really can't call that a second-class citizen. I mean, for example, maybe if we go as well look at it back home, there are many scenarios where you are literally denied your rights, right? Where you are literally. I mean, I have my own experience where I could talk about where I could say like I've been treated like a second-class citizen within Nigeria itself. Within Nigeria itself, one thing that before I even go to my experience, because I mean you are the one we are interviewing, so even though it's a conversation, but I would like to be very specific about like when people often say, okay, you are a second-class citizen. Most often it's like, for example, you cannot own property. For example, like you live in a place, you have no right to own property because you are a second-class citizen. You have no right to political aspirations, right? So as it is in Germany today, do you believe you have the right to owning property?
Yeah, definitely. Of course, in this regard, we have to be honest to ourselves. The German society allows everybody who fulfills the requirements to get to whatever you want to get to. So the system in place will not deny you. Of course, one or two people may not want to give you something. But like you said, that happens also even back home. That happens also back home where people might not want to give you for whatever reason, maybe you come from a particular tribe or whatever reason they see about you, they don't want to give you something. People do that here also, and that I believe exists everywhere in the world. Well, because as as human beings, we are tribal in nature, and then you look at something and be like, okay, for this reason, I don't want this person, whether it's justified or not. But as far as the system is concerned, of course, you can own property, you can aspire to become a politician and to get to the top. We also have, even if not many, we want a couple or handful of black men, people in parliament. And when I even say black, I don't even mean people who were born and raised here. There are some people who were born and raised in Africa, and they come here and then they get to some levels. They aspire to achieve some things in politics. And just as a teaser, I don't know when this video is going to come out, but I don't want to talk too much. There's actually a meeting which I will be attending in a couple of days with a few other people in the Nigerian community. And we will be meeting with as long as you pass the regular background checks that even Germans themselves will have to pass through. So property ownership, we also have many Nigerians here who are mortgaging, so to say, houses. And all they have to show is their financial requirements. Before we even go to properties, as far as financing items are concerned, you have access to credit cards, for example. I mean, I'm not a big proponent of spending credit card money because you are going to be owing unless you do it wisely. But the fact that regardless of when you are filling the form and you put your nationality as Nigeria there, for example, it doesn't stop them from saying we are issuing you the credit card. All they want to know is you have a registered address here, you've been staying here for a particular number of years, you have the appropriate kind of residence permit or the citizenship. And then they give you access to the same financial instruments that they give a German access to without any restrictions.
Yeah. Okay, so in summary, I believe we could even wrap it up now. Like in summary, so if someone is a Nigerian and they are thinking, especially a younger person, and they are thinking of leaving, and the thought to their mind is like, hey, I'm going to go to a place where I'm going to be a second-class citizen. So, which means, especially with your experience and maybe my experience regarding Germany, so it is not something to worry about that you are going to be a second-class citizen.
Yeah, definitely, it's not something to worry about, and it's also very important for us to make our own experiences, because oftentimes you hear people say things like, no, don't go to Leipzig, don't go to this place, don't go to that place, you're going to do this. And then you go to those places and you how do I say, you observe the norms, so to say. And when I say observe the norms, I don't mean not being yourself, but everywhere you go, in Yoruba, we say, Bawa Jenshin Letiwa Ewo Bomi. So the way we act in our own place is forbidden somewhere else, and vice versa. So when you go there and you're respectful and everything, you find out that you have no problems in those kind of places. Back to being a second-class citizen, like you said, it's actually even possible, and we've also experienced it, that many of us, even in Nigeria, we are sometimes treated as second-class citizens. You can even now even expand a bit if you don't mind me.
No, I want to expand on my second class treatment in Nigeria.
You see,
I want to expand on it.
So you see that in different sectors, whether it's at the university, whether it's you go to the civil service to do things, think about how many of us were treated during our NYSC. Think about how we are treated when we are at the universities. I remember many times you want to submit a laboratory report, because those of us that did engineering, you have to do lab report. You want to submit a laboratory report, the lady who's going to collect it from you, you have to beg and beg. She can tell you, okay, you know what, go and cut your hair, you know what, go and change. The things that are not relevant to what you are doing, they just treat you anyhow. They can say, okay, you know what, go and buy me food and come back here, send you on errands. Why? Just because you want her to do her duty, which she has been employed for. And if you ever dare open your mouth to say this to her, that, Dambo, this is your duty, forget it. You are done for. You might not even graduate. I remember some years ago, there was a protest in Unilag against the vice chancellor, and the students were protesting. I think the problem started from the electricity problem at the campus. There was no light for like a week or so. And when there's no light, it means there's no water. And when there's no water, the toilets are not working, there's no food, there's nothing. You cannot function, And students were basically trapped. They want to read, want to study for exam. You cannot be going under the street lamp to go and study and that kind of stuff. And they protested. And one of the guys who led the protest, I remember at the challenge VC, he said the VC is not fit. So the VC is the vice chancellor. He's not fit to hold that position in the university and that kind of stuff. And the next thing we heard was that this guy was rusticated from the university for, I don't know, about 4 semesters. Why? Because he had the audacity to criticize the vice chancellor. Whereas that is part of his right to be able to do so. You have to be able to speak up against the leadership. Yeah. Saying that somebody is not qualified for his position is different from saying that the man is stupid. If you insult a person's personality, it's different
Yeah.
from insulting the person's ability to do a job. You are put there for a reason, and I can criticize your ability. And we cannot do this in our universities. If you cannot criticize anybody, you cannot criticize the government. You've seen government going to bundle people up from their houses just for saying something against the governor or whoever it is. And people have the audacity to even tweet these things in our own country, and people even tell you that, this is my city, nothing, I will do anything to you. So if you look at it in the actual fact, are we not even more of second-class citizens where we come from than here where we are, where you can actually criticize the policies? You can open the law and look at the law. This is what it says. And the person will back down and say, okay, no problem. You are right. Is that not more of a second-class treatment that we see in Nigeria than here where we actually are saying that we are different skin color?
You really reminded me of, this led me to, what are the second-class citizen experiences that I have had? You can think of the one you had, but I can think of some of the second-class treatment that I have had in Nigeria. Right. There was a time I was trying to get a scholarship. I was trying to get a scholarship to Brunei Darussalam, and when part of the requirement were that you need an attestation from either Ministry of Foreign Affairs or a Ministry of Education, either of the two. I'm from Oyo State, but I grew up in Ogun State, and I was like, okay, it's fine. I could just go to the Ministry of Education in Ogun State. Or even apart from that, we also have the federal, we have the federal secretariat in every 36 states of Nigeria. In every state capital, we have the federal secretariat. So which have like a kind of satellite office to the main ministry in Abuja. So initially I went to the federal secretariat. They have an office of education there. And I was like, okay, I need an attestation for this scholarship application. And I was told, like, anything attestation, we don't do it here. We don't do it here. You have to go to Abuja. And I was like, Abuja is, I've never been there before. Abuja is very far from Ogun State. So I decided to, then just across the road, if you know where the federal secretariat is in Abeokuta, just across the road, you have like the Ogun State ministries, like all the offices are there. So when I got there, I met the director for education, and I told them what I wanted to do, and I was told, like, young man, I will not be able to give you this attestation. Okay, why? He said, okay, one, you are not from Ogun State. Two, you did not attend any school you did not, your university, because the scholarship is for a master's degree. So like your first degree did not happen in Ogun State, where I could maybe call the university and ask and maybe something. But yeah, for those two reasons, I cannot give you an attestation. And the funny thing was, I actually went to Abuja to try to do it eventually. But when I got to Abuja, I think maybe I needed to sign like maybe 21 forms. And apart from all the hassles I encountered, I was told, like, hey, for this to go through, you need to pay like 1,000 naira per page. And I was like, I am just applying for a scholarship. I am yet to even get the scholarship. So I don't even have 21,000 naira to pay for this. And eventually, I just, for some reason, called the person I knew who is already a beneficiary of the scholarship. And it was like, young man, why are you stressing yourself? You are from Oyo State. Why don't you just go to Oyo State and stand? He is also from Oyo State. He did this in Oyo State. So eventually I had to travel back to Ibadan. Before I could do it. And you now look at all that stress. Does that look like I'm a first-class citizen, even in my own country? In my own country, I don't have the right. Not like I don't have, maybe officially, like maybe it's written that I have it, but in reality, I don't have it. There are times where I cannot, even when my right is trampled upon, I cannot speak about that. When I do not get a first-class treatment when I go to government offices, because those are examples of where I could talk about like first-class treatment. Okay. Okay, now let me come back to Germany, for example. What are the first-class treatment that I think maybe I have had in Germany? Okay. One of the first-class treatment I have had in Germany, in the few time I've been here, I think I've changed job like to, I think it's like my third job, like since I've
Mm-hmm.
been here. And there's none of this job that I've been able to get because I happen to know somebody in the organization.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and it is actually very weird. Yes, even the job I did in Nigeria, I got it without knowing anyone. But as at that time, even many people were like, you are so lucky. You got a
Mm-hmm.
job without knowing anyone. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it is already a thing that you have to know
Mm-hmm.
someone before you could get a job. And to
Mm-hmm.
me, I think that's a form of second class citizen
Mm-hmm.
because it is not already about what you know, it boils down to who you know. And I mean, if you are already born without a silver spoon, you already got
Mm-hmm.
the short end of the stick. So the
Mm-hmm.
number of people you know is very limited. Or should I say, the number of people of consequence or the people that matter that you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
already very limited. Right? So to me, I would take that as an example of a second class citizen. Right? Now, coming here to Germany, I don't know anyone. If I don't know anyone in all the three jobs that I've worked at before getting the job. Everything was often based on merit.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I talk to government offices and there is a misunderstanding, I have the right to like write back. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I think there is a mistake somewhere here. I could like easily write back and tell them, hey, but in Nigeria, it's you really can't do that. And
Mm-hmm.
I would take a place where I could tell people like, hey, especially like you mentioned, when you know you're right and you are able to implement it, right? You can just easily write back and say, hey, a good example of a first class a first class treatment, let me call it treatment now. First class treatment that I have experienced here is like when government organizations here make a decision about you, every decision that they make about you comes with a note that says the decision on this letter is binding. Sorry, like as like a 1 month period.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Mm-hmm.
you don't say anything in 1 month, then it is finally binding. But if you
Mm-hmm.
don't like it in 1 month, you have the right to
Mm-hmm.
protest it. You have a right to reject it. I would take something like that as a kind of first class treatment. So,
Yeah, of course.
in your own case, what are like the second class, first class treatment you've had in both home and in diaspora?
Yeah, of course. It's I totally agree with you regarding the Nigerian experience and also here the experience here. I mean, I think there's so many second class experiences that one can draw from Nigeria, you know. And already even from primary school you begin to see some things, you know. I I remember I remember back then in the primary school I went to, because so I grew up in Mushin, and we went to the primary school at Elupeju, that area of Lagos, you know. And it was like this, that the school we went to, so my parents, they, of course, like many other parents, they try to give you that best education that you can get. So my parents, they sent me to a kind of school that I would say maybe was a bit above their grade, but they wanted me to be there. Like, okay, you guys, to the extent that they would even be sending me and some other ones on errands during the class, like, go and buy this, go and do this, you know, or come and wash my leg. Teacher will bring you a bowl of water, say, come and wash my leg. And the other
Wow.
students are learning in the class, you know.
That
I can still
is
remember this.
that's extreme.
Yeah, I can still remember this vividly, you know. And one thing
Wow.
about being a child is that you don't forget some things as a young child. So
Uh-huh.
children have this very good memory. I can still remember watching my teacher's leg, Auntie Yemisi, you know. So I don't know where she is today.
Wow.
He said, "Oh, come, you have to go and wash my leg, you know, and then you come and pluck this ewedu and this kind of things, you know, because you know that nothing can happen. I'm
Mm,
not the son of the people that were coming to that were bringing jeeps and that
mm,
were in the PTA committee deciding
mm,
everything, you know. So already from that point, you fast forward also then to again to the university, you see again this kind of things. I remember also the visa processing period to come to Germany. The guys who are in charge of the at the German embassy, the Nigerians who are at the gate there, they will oppress you and they will frustrate your efforts to get that visa. I don't know if things have things have not even changed now, because I heard from people things are still the same. I
mm,
remember going there many times, and then you get there 30 minutes before your appointment and they say you are very stupid, you are late, get out
mm,
of here, they kick you out, you know, and people's lives have been shattered just by these kind of decisions, you know. And I was also very lucky that this kind of thing did not, well, almost happened to me, but did not, you know, go through. And
mm,
when I come to Germany here and I look at my life here in Germany, there's never been a time when I go to the government office before I got the German citizenship that anybody ever treated me like that. Even if they are having a bad day, they might not smile at me when I get there, but if my documents are complete and in the way it's supposed to be, I'll be attended to immediately. They give me an appointment at a particular time. I come there and I'm attended to immediately the way it's supposed to be. And nobody ever says, okay, just because you are not from here or whatever it is, we are going to prevent you from doing this kind of thing. So as I think that where we come from, as far as Nigeria is concerned, of course, it's not entrenched in our law that people should be doing this to other people. But so the law actually gives everybody equal opportunity, equal rights, theoretically. But what's happened, what is in theory is different from what Nigerians actually practicalize, and we but whereby
Correct.
in 20
Mm. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy at the German embassy.
Paulinus.
Yes, Mr. Paulinus.
Because he has been there before I went. I met him there. I heard that he's still there. And if you go into the embassy again itself, the way they talk to you, the way they treat you, you don't feel good. You don't feel good at all. You can even think about how, because of my hair, many times I go to Nigeria, I have to part with money every time. The police. I was in Nigeria in December last year. More
wow. You know, when my mind, I try to picture my first class and second class treatment in both places. A good example, well, I've not been here for 9 years, but at least I've been driving in Germany for almost 3 years now, right? Almost 3 years. And in the 3 years that I've been driving, I have never been stopped by a police officer. I have never, not even can we check your particulars? I have never been stopped by a police officer. If you ask me, I will call that a first class treatment. If compared to a place where you are stopped, I mean, apart from that, you are even stopped randomly within the town. The moment you travel across the border, that's one of the most painful. You travel across the border from Nigeria to Benin Republic, which is just beside us. You have to go through 60 checkpoints, 60 checkpoints between Nigeria and Benin Republic. And there's no way you could call that a first class experience to me. But there's something else I could call a first class experience in Nigeria compared to Germany. Right? One thing I could call a first class experience is the hospitals, your access to the hospitals. In a way, I think, yes, Germany has a good number of systems for many things, but sometimes those systems have become they make things difficult, right? A very good example is accessing an hospital. In Nigeria, I don't have to remember which hospital is a children's hospital or which hospital is an adult hospital. You probably might not have experienced this, but here, the first time I experienced it was a rude shock to me. I did not even know. One of my kids was sick and I had to go to the hospital, and I got there and I was like, sorry, you are the wrong hospital. What? What is the wrong hospital? What do you mean by the wrong hospital? No, there is a children's hospital and it is not here. Wow. And it was in winter. It was in winter. It was, oh no. That day, I wish I was in Nigeria.
Yeah.
It was in winter. It was in the evening because the child was sick in the afternoon. I was like, okay, I'll take you after work. I went past 5. I got to the hospital. It was in December. And here in Germany in December, doctors go, your house arts, they go on break. They go on break. So I was told hey, you have to go to the children. I was like, children's hospital, where is that here? Oh, you have to go to one in Oibi. I'm like, okay. Then I left the hospital, I stood at the bus stop. It was chilly. I did not have a car. So it was so chilly. And I had to wait 20 minutes or so. And 20 minutes in winter, it feels like 1 hour. And even the child was very sick. So I moved the child. Okay, we got to the hospital like 15 minutes before 6 o'clock. I was like, let's just get to the hospital. I will go to the hospital, and they were like, and out as in all these house arts, kinder art, they close at 6 o'clock. Those things don't happen to you in Nigeria. I don't know an hospital in Nigeria that closes at 6 o'clock. And you get there, I was like, hey, sorry, we are already closed for the day. Like, no, what am I going to do with this child? This child is very sick. Like things like that can really, before you could really understand like the German hospital system and the healthcare system, sometimes it really can be like very, very hectic. It really can be very, very hectic. So in a way, I will call that a second class treatment. I mean, yes, you could talk about the health insurance, but I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. The health insurance, it is good in the sense that when you have like a big emergencies, it's able to take care of you for big emergencies. But we all know that sometimes I've heard of people who have to fake the gravity of how sick they are just to get quick attention. You go even to the Krankenhaus, except you are like, Motiveku. You could sit even in the Krankenhaus for 4 hours before they could even attend to you, And in Nigeria, it's often like, yeah, I mean, there are people who also are denied access to medical care if they do not have the money for it, which here the insurance covers you for. But most of the time in Nigeria, so long as you have the money, you are guaranteed to get that care, right? So long as you have the money. I mean, some of us have done some medical procedures in Nigeria and it went well, right? It went well. We've done some, I mean, I've also heard of some here that are botched. So I think what I can say is everyone will have a fair share of first class and second class treatment, irrespective of where you find yourself. Is that a reasonable conclusion to make?
Yeah, I think conclusion is right. I might not totally agree with you on the hospital issue.
Okay.
I think one point you mentioned was the fact that one eventually understands
Yeah.
People who were born and raised here, they know already. So there are many things I observed that for us, they are very new. You don't even know those things, like related to the apartment, related to many things you want to do. You don't know those things. So you end up doing it one way, only to discover that, no, that's not how they do it here. And then you now have to run. You've gone in one direction entirely, and then you have to come back. For me, this might not really count as a second-class experience. It's simply a product of the fact that you don't yet know. But the moment you know, then you would not have to end up again in the general hospital instead of in the children's hospital. Although they won't even consider you at all when you don't have the money, or they won't even consider you at all if you come with a stab or bullet wound. They will not treat you. Nigerian hospitals are notorious for not treating people who come with bullet wound. Even if the person carrying them is saying, look, this person is a victim of armed robbery, they say, no, we don't want to touch you. We don't want to touch you. And many people have lost their lives this way. This, for me, in my opinion, is worse than a system whereby even if you don't have the means, they will still first of all treat you and say, okay, let's now see what happens after that. Even if in general it might be slower. So yeah, I think it's a mixed bag, and the healthcare system here can be really slow. It can be really, really slow, and I would say it's not one of the strong points in general, in terms of the efficiency. It's not a strong point of Germany. But in healthcare, I will still regard myself more. I'll still regard the Nigerian setting generally more, that it treats people generally as second class more than here. That's my own opinion.
Well, I mean, you are right to an extent regarding like when you understand the hospital. But even understanding the hospital, you still really find it very, very hectic. Like, I will still give you that, despite the fact that I know, okay, now that I even know that you have the children hospital different from there was still another time that there was like a kind of emergency with the child, and we went to the children hospital, and they still said, okay, this is not the children hospital you should come to, because yeah, and they were like, okay, because the emergency that happened in the child's school, and the school provided a note to it, and so they said, if the accident had happened outside school or outside work, this is we'll take care of you here. But you have to go. See, when that thing is happening, especially in winter, like, okay, now I have to now go to another hospital, Baba, that's a piece of
Yeah. I mean, I think I understand you. I understand you from that perspective. Yeah, I understand you from that perspective. Yeah, I think that this kind of particular question or this kind of regard, then you are definitely right. I believe that we are even heading to the same direction. It's just that we're citing different examples to get there. But I agree with you on that point.
Should I interrupt you with another example?
Mm-hmm.
Have you spoken with anyone that gave birth to a child in Germany?
No, not really about the process. So I've not asked them about the process.
Okay, like ask anyone who gave birth to a child in Germany. They do not bath the child.
They don't bath the child.
They don't bath the child.
Okay.
They don't bath the child. Like Nigerians, I mean, I've spoken to a lot of Nigerians here who give birth to their kids here. And like, it's very weird. So I would say giving birth to a child in a country where you bath the child immediately is a first class treatment.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, I agree. That was, of course.
Though they might tell you that, I don't know whatever cultural, whatever they have to eat, but I don't know whatever medical, whatever you want to bring. I think it is pretty much healthy to bath a child. I mean, actually, should be money now. Let's bath the child. Let's bath the child. I mean, it's only one person I know who said, like, when she gave birth, she had to, like, you guys have to excuse me. I need to. They just clean up the child, but like not like bathing the child. No Lara somehow, But you can ask around. You can ask around.
Okay, that's new to me.
So, in my opinion, I would say, like, just like we started, like, everything is a grind wherever you are. But in my opinion, don't let the move to a new place discourage you. Sometimes we think like, okay, moving to this new place I'm going to be a second-class citizen. Except like you are a Dangote, right? I mean, in Nigeria, the people who are first class are like the $10, the Dangote.
Of course.
Yeah. But I believe here I have a lot of odd experiences you can call a first-class experience, right? And those things are just open to ordinary people. I mean, there are places here you could go where, like, you go there, you even start asking that, where are we going to pay? And they tell you, no, it's free. You don't even have to pay. I like, no, a place like this, in my country, I have to pay a lot to be here. Let me give you an example of that. An example of that is like, what's it called? BNV Museum. I mean, we live in Bayern. You go to BNV Museum, and in BNV Museum, you have all their new cars, their Rolls Royce. People go there and take pictures. In a place like that, I would tell myself, who am I? Who am I? What am I looking for here at this like that? But you have the final say. For me, I think wherever our grind in life takes us to, we should just be open to it, that both first class and second class experience happens everywhere. 2, first class experience are not supernatural experiences. They are experiences that other humans create to make the life of other humans easy. So we as Nigerians, can we try to give ourselves this first class citizen? This first class treatment. Let's try to make life. First class treatment comes from making life easy for one another. So what is your own take?
Yeah, and the same access. I mean, here I did my PhD here. Nobody said, okay, you're not going to do it here. And when I finished the PhD, they gave me an award. Nobody said, okay, we're not going to give you, or whatever it is. The same access that was given to the German colleagues and the European colleagues also afforded to me. I've been a dishwasher here for many years. When I was doing my studies, when I was washing the dishes, when it's time to share the tips, the guys who are working in the so it's always that overall here you see that. I mean, if you go to Nigeria, so for example, the places where I worked as a dishwasher in the restaurant, I could also afford to eat the food there. But I know many places I've gone to in Nigeria to eat, whereby a dish of food, maybe rice and fish, is already 30,000, 40,000 naira just to eat, and the person who is working there serving you the food, preparing the food,
is
cannot
unable
buy.
to afford it. Yeah.
Maybe maybe the person's salary is 40,000 in a month.
Mm.
Person can never eat that food, that can never buy that food. But the places I worked, I could sit down after my dishwashing job and say, okay, you know what, serve me, I will eat and I'll pay. The money I was collecting doing this work, I was able to even use it to go out and do other things for myself. So for me, that's also an example of first class treatment. And basically to then go to the point that you mentioned again is like you said, everywhere you go, if you move abroad from Nigeria, you will definitely have instances of first class experience, and you also have instances of second class experience. Of course, but the fact is that this part of the world where we are, they have chosen to stick to the laws, so to say, which we also have in Nigeria.
Yeah.
But we've not, which consciously or unconsciously chosen not to.
We don't lack laws. We just don't follow through.
We just don't follow through. And so we've chosen not to follow through with those things. But the people who are here, even without any camera watching them, they've chosen to follow those laws. And for that reason, they're able to give us a first class experience even when we are here. And so if you want to achieve that kind of thing in Nigeria, it actually starts with individual, because before you even go to the level of the government, the average person who is a clerk somewhere, they misuse their power. The person who is the security guard at a particular office, when you get there, you want to enter, he's telling you, no, not to go, or that no day, nothing. He wants you to settle him, or he just wants to mess around with you a bit before he allows you to enter for no reason, just because he's the one in charge of that particular place for that moment. So if we can have a scenario whereby each of these people do their own duty to treat the next person well, then we would have a ripple effect whereby we will have first class treatment, and it won't be that you have to be the child of a rich politician, or you have to come and say, you know who I am, and nobody who is a senator or House of Rep member will come and slap you, and then you now you want begging the person who is slapping you. We see it a lot even among people who are not politicians. The rich people oppress you and you go and beg them, So it's an unfortunate situation. We have to be honest with you. If one assesses it in an objective way, we have more instances of second class treatment where we come from, as opposed to this country that we are now calling our new home.
True. Okay, thank you very much for your contribution and insight. That is very eye-opening. I believe, some things are eye-opening for you, like you heard about the babies today, and so and some other things. So generally, I would just say, like, as we keep grinding in whatever part of the world we find ourselves, let's try to just create first-class citizens, first-class treatment. I wanted to say Enshudigon. Become German. First-class treatment happens by treating one another right, making life, just going the extra mile to make life easy for the other person. That is just what first-class citizen is. I hope all across, not just Nigeria, but all across Africa, we could all do this for ourselves. And the world will be much better for every guidance. Okay, and we call it a quit on this episode, and we're going to see each other again on another episode. Thank you very much, Ayodeji Taiwo, for being our guest.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Bye.
All right then, bye-bye. Yes.
Bye.